So what is the future? Is the future now, or is there a future? We're gonna find out. There is one man, I don't know if he comes from the future or if he sees the future. One thing is that he has a little insight about what's coming up next. So the theme of the last presentation is the embracing event-driven architecture in IMS. Please make a round of applause to the senior Java developer in Playtech's IMS unit, Tõnis Pihlakas. Give it up, Tõnis.
Thank you. Thanks so much for being here. I'm so glad to see there's still so many of you here, not at all sleepy. I would start with a little small question. How many of you are actually software developers here? Okay, so about a third or so. All right, so don't worry. The topic is fairly technical, but I'll try to go through the theme a bit quicker maybe, and leave a bit more time for the discussions later. So if there's technical guys here who want to go into the more technical topics, so be it. Or if there's any general questions about the whole thing, that's fine as well. So to start off, yes, my name is Tõnis. Welcome to our new office, first of all. I'm a software developer here at Playtech for a product we call the Information Management Solution, or the IMS for short. And before we get into the whole thing, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what the IMS actually is. So sometimes we think of IMS as if, let's say if we take the whole product portfolio of Playtech and they take everything that's gaming away. So whatever's left over, all the leftover services are kind of the IMS. But that's not really an innovative, futuristic way of looking at things. So we rather prefer not to look at IMS as leftovers, but rather as a platform for developing new products, as a platform for integrating other products into the whole Playtech ecosystem. The IMS contains features such as customer relationship management, account management, wallet management, payments, risk management, responsible gaming, reporting, and I profusely apologize in front of all my colleagues if I left something out here. But there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things that are the IMS. And today I think is a good time to do two things. First of all, to confess something and also to celebrate something. I would like to start by confessing something. Confessing that building this huge system we call the IMS is actually a really tough task. And we are facing a lot of challenges. We're facing plenty of challenges. I will talk about them a little bit. But there's also time for celebration. There's time for celebration because we believe that we've found at least one way, at least one path how to tackle these challenges. And this is what today's talk is about. So what are these challenges? I'm going a little bit into technical details right now. But what we're seeing, the main challenge is that building huge systems is costly. So costly in terms of money, costly in terms of human resources. We're seeing that having one big database around which we want to build our systems is really expensive. There's an inherent conflict of interests between designing the database for fast transaction processing and designing the database for fast analytical processing. There are inherent conflicts between services that might be, although they might seem decoupled at first, they're actually integrated through the same big database. And by being integrated, it's really hard to evolve that data model, that shared data model between services. This is difficult. It is also difficult because we're building real-time systems. We're building software that has to react to players' actions really, really fast. And building something around a full real-time compliant model is expensive. To do all these tasks we have to do, in the previous picture you saw there's a lot of features in IMS. And doing this, each and every feature in real time, is really expensive. So what we see is that we need perhaps a new kind of a way to think about data, maybe a new kind of a way to think about information interchange between technical services. We need something that's highly available to make sure that every time a technical service wants to connect to another service, it can do so. It can do so without delay. It can do so with really high throughput. Give the ability to services to actually push as much data through as needed to other services, but at the same time not to involve other services directly in the whole process. We need this sort of underlying fabric of data exchange where each service can perhaps talk about what happened in the business domain and say it, and at the same time other services can listen to that service and then be the intelligent agents in this sort of a picture and create new knowledge out of it. So we need something such that there's not one single director behind the business process, but rather there are lots of intelligent actors in that. We want a data delivery system that is actually scalable, that is able to handle the huge loads of traffic we're seeing when it comes to large sporting events, but at the same time is able to keep resources tight and small when it comes to everyday gaming. We need something that's near real time and durable. We need some kind of a way to move data such that the data doesn't get lost. And we also need a common business model. We have when building these separated services, we have a problem that there's an inherent drift in business models. We see that the same thing, the same idea of some kind of a business object gets named differently in different services. We see that these objects get maybe treated differently, but we need a common model. And oh boy, do I have to tell you, right now is really the good time to do this. When we look at the overall software community, the world as the software community, then we see that there's a lot of mature big data products going live. There's a lot of new features for message-oriented exchange. There's a lot of new features for event-oriented architectures, and all of this is available to us directly through open source communities, something that Playtech is really fond of doing. And we see that event-based or event-driven architecture for us is perhaps the thing we want to do, perhaps the way we want to go. There's a lot of information here about the events, if you can see these slides, but what you might want to remember is that an event is something that describes the past. It describes something that happened in a business domain, some kind of a change in the state of the business. It's something that can cause, of course, other new events. If something happened in one system, another system listened to that event happening, and it can also create a new event, and such we can put different systems to work together in a quite decoupled way without actually having to rely on somebody directing the whole process. Events are immutable, and events do not change afterwards. When we think about usually the database interactions, then we have a database. The way the business process works is that we change something in the database, and then business process is done or moved into a next step. With events, we rather think of events expiring. We rather think of that, okay, we had some kind of an event in the business domain, and at the next point in time, a new event might be emitted, which essentially overrides the previous one, or essentially says that, okay, the previous one doesn't matter anymore. And through this event-based architecture, through this event-based communication, we get some kind of a common view of things. But it's not the only thing that matters here from technical perspective. Another part we have to understand is how we actually process these things. So we're talking about events, happening in time. So these are essentially unbounded streams of data. They're not some values in a database. They're actually sets and sets of data always coming in, always moving around. And when we create systems, we have to start understanding that it's not about the state, but it's rather about the the dynamic features of systems that we have to develop against, that we have to think of putting together different streams and operating with the streams rather than operating the data itself. So moving on, this is a change in the mindset, but it is also something that gives us a lot of opportunities. There are plenty of opportunities actually that we see that could arise from implementing a proper event streaming solution, a proper event-driven architecture, something we're currently just striving towards, but just some of them, just some additional points that we can bring out, maybe data synchronization between services, so to have this single view of the business domain, to have quicker validity checks, to have quicker account management features, so that when a player logs in, he has to wait less time before he can play. We can improve the features for fraud management, for fraud detection. We can understand better how fraudsters behave and how good players behave, and from that make more and more better ways to detect fraud and to prevent actual loss, monetary loss. We can improve the responsible gaming features, meaning we can improve the experience of players by actually reducing the chance that they will lose a lot of money, or in general we can do a lot better features for award management, for loyalty or bonus assignments, things that actually make people happy and make them happy to play games rather than think of it as some kind of a way to rob their money. And improve all sorts of other technical features like auditing to give better transparency, to understand how well we're doing, and also to improve our communications with regulatory bodies, so governments and other institutions that want to know how the players are doing in that specific regulation, how people are doing playing our games. And through this we can create not only trust in us as a company who provides credible and trustworthy solutions for the players, but also trustworthy solutions for the player community as a whole in a specific regulation. And we can have much better overview and much quicker overview of what's going on statistically, how we can improve the player experience. And all of this related to events, this thing we call the event stream, is what we do here in Tallinn, in IMS. So IMS in Tallinn is a relatively new thing. The team started at around perhaps mid last year, and there's only a handful of people, a handful of very bright people, and me. And there's a lot of independence in what we do. But we're also supported really well by our colleagues in Tartu and our colleagues around the world, actually in Ukraine and in Israel and other places. So this is something that's a collaborative effort for us. Now it's a collaborative effort in our new office, in our new awesome office, and I can't really start describing how amazing it looks, at least from this point. But now I would like to give the floor to you. I would like to hear your questions, your ideas on the topic, and to really have this discussion of what might be interesting for you.
Yes? You had a question?
No, our question was, is it solved?
I can go on for miles and hours, but if you're interested in some of the specific technical topics, then we can sure discuss this.
Okay. Yes.
What is the main benefit of using events?
Okay, so the main benefit, the immediate benefit for us is the fact that we can reduce the load and reduce the complexity of our current systems, of the current service-to-service communications. Essentially, this is the initial technical benefit. Afterwards, there will be the benefits we had here, all these opportunities and things. So these will be the, let's say, the business benefits. But the immediate benefit for us is what we see is actually the fact that we can reduce the complexity and reduce reduce the difficulty of managing service-to-service integrations in some areas. Obviously it's not a silver bullet, it doesn't replace everything, but we see that it's something, if there are certain communication scenarios where we can maybe sacrifice some aspects, maybe real-time, the actual real-time performance of the system, or where we can say that, okay, maybe consistency is not too important if we have eventual consistency in a specific scenario. And then this is what I see as the immediate benefits. If this answers your question. Okay, thanks.
Okay, yes, sir.
What non-technical challenges have you seen during this designing this new architecture?
Okay, cool. That's really.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh yeah, sorry, of course. This question was, what kind of non-technical challenges have I seen from the during the creation of this event-based or event-driven systems? Okay, so for me there are two separate kinds of non-technical challenges. One is organizational challenges, which are unfortunately anyways bound to happen. If you have to organize yourself to discuss with multiple different interest groups, a lot of different stakeholders, and this is obviously a thing that takes time, takes effort, especially if you're a software developer and prefer to be somewhere in your corner and just create code. But another type of challenge for me personally has been actually forming opinions about things, because if you're into new technology and you're really interested in building something new and awesome, then every time you pick up a hammer, everything seems like a nail, and it seems like a really good point to start using that hammer. But you have to kind of step back and have a look at, okay, if this part that I'm building, is this something that should be done this or that way? Should I do this or that technical decision, or should I take this or that technical kind of an opinion or a standpoint? And forming these opinions is sometimes difficult.
Okay. But when you started, I first started to think that you were talking about some super intelligence, some kind of super thing for the future, because it had all like the aspects that you were describing. But what do you see? Do you see this only in Playtech, or do you see this in as you also attach the community of software developers in all over the world?
Right.
Do you see like this is the new, how to compare it? This is like the next big thing. There is a transition of way of thinking, and this is how it goes into masses.
No, I don't think it's the next big thing. It's a big thing already, I think, because there's a lot of companies doing it where we're not inventing it, so it's nothing spectacularly new, but it's rather something that we see that we can take and perhaps improve on it, perhaps add our own knowledge to it, and maybe even eventually share with the community if it seems to be like mature enough. If these ideas behind there seem mature enough, but currently it's done before, it has been done before, it's just something that makes sense, it seems to make sense at this point in Playtech's development history, I suppose.
Okay. Yes?
We run into the trouble of transactions, so you generate 3 messages and either they all have to be consumed or not consumed at all.
Okay, so the question was about transaction handling. So, as I understand, if I understand the question correctly, it was if let's say, have we run into the trouble that you have to, let's say, if you have a bunch of messages, bunch of events, right? If you have to consume just one message, or let's say multiple, if you want to consume if you want to consume just one message, or in some cases you might want to consume all the messages or multiple messages at the time. So does this essentially give us trouble? Okay, for us, I mean, technically, from the technical perspective, the tools we're using allow us to act in essentially any way we want. So it's the messages, they don't disappear anywhere, or the events, the information about events doesn't disappear anywhere. It stays there inside the event stream, and everybody can consume it essentially as many times as they want. We just have to be really careful about figuring out the exact way how to detect if these messages have already been consumed. And this is a challenge. This is a challenge. We need to understand how we're actually going to face it, because there are ideas right now which we're trying out, but I suppose field testing will give an eventual picture of whether it's going to be a problem or not. If this answers your question.
Kind of.
Okay, cool.
Let's say it does.
All right.
So basically we can say we're in the area, we have so much data, but how to pick the right data out of that data to make the next event or next big thing happen.
Yeah, for example, yes, or this will eventually, of course, be a problem, that whether you have some kind of a way, let's say a sensible way to separate the real data from the noise in the background. And yes, this is something we have to work on, and this is something we have to figure out how to do it in the best way possible. But this is something currently in the process, in the making.
In the making. Okay. Any more questions? Yes.
Can you give us some examples of what technologies you're using?
Okay, so from technology perspective, the question was what kind of technologies are we using? We're mostly reliant on the open source world. From messaging perspective, it's Apache Kafka. From let's say message processing, we're looking more towards Apache Spark, and also towards let's say the surrounding systems are looking towards things like Hadoop, HDFS, and all sorts of big data solutions for processing this data, both online and offline afterwards.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions? Maybe Tõnis, I see your enthusiasm, and
That's great.
and no, but this is the thing that drives things forward, because even though you are the last representer, I can feel it. I can feel the energy, and I see you're so into the subject. But what's how to say? We have also online viewers. What is like your words of wisdom, or what is your, I don't know, some wish or some kind of a wish for people in the how to say, in the software developers? What is your wish? Should people rethink their thinking, or some kind of a wish, or what is your, if it's not like a question, it's more like a statement.
Okay.
On your point of view.
Be pragmatic. Be deliberate when you're doing decisions, and actually try to rely rather less on your immediate intuition, but try things out and experiment and find out ways to do awesome things, and then awesome things will happen.